Okay, so let's get to setting up the IK on the leg. I'm going to set the rotates all back to 0. And I'm going to go ahead and create a control for the IK leg. So I'm going to go to display, or not display, sorry, create NURBS primitive circle. That's what I like to use. I'm going to parent this to the ball joint and just zero out the translates. Then I'll unparent it and rename it to leg underscore L underscore, let's call it leg IK underscore L underscore control or anim. We'll call it anim. Okay. Then there needs to be a way to zero out this control. And you could do that by freezing transformations if you wanted to. Or what I like to do is actually create another group that's empty. And I'll copy this name here. So I'll copy that with Control C. And I'll rename this group. And I'll replace the underscore anim with underscore GRP for group. Okay. And then the easiest way to make this zero out the leg IK anim is to drag this onto it, zero it out, and then unparent it. So basically we just transferred it to that world space. And then we grab the anim and drag it underneath there. And now the anim values are all set to defaults. Okay. I also need to delete history on it because we don't want history to be on it. And now it's ready to be used. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and reshape this just a little bit because it bugs me when they're not. So I'd like to do that from component mode. And I always end up getting a lot more picky about this than I think I'm going to. Okay, so I'm close. Okay, so that's decent. Looks the shape. So I'm going to go back to object mode. Now I'm going to start creating IK handles for these joints. The first one that I want to create goes from the hip to the ankle. Okay, so you go to skeleton, IK handle, and we want to use what's called the rotate plane solver. And I can't remember if these are the default settings, but these are the settings that I like. Yeah, they're the default, except for I changed this to rotate plane solver. And you can either select two joints over here in the hierarchy, which is probably safer since we have multiple joint chains here. We want to make sure that we do it to the IK joint chain, so we can't use the 3D, the perspective view. So we'll select the hip IK, and then we'll shift select the ankle IK. And it created that IK handle. Right, let me turn my handle on, my transparency. or X-ray mode. And what makes this a rotate plane IK handle is this little circle at the top with this white arrow. Oh my goodness. With this white arrow. And what that white arrow represents is the direction the knee is going to bend. And so we want that to be in line with the knee, which it is, and that's good. And getting that to point the right direction is why we spent so much time rotating the leg. If you remember a lot earlier on, when we were placing the joints, and we wanted to rotate the hip to be able to get these joints into place. And that made sure that these ended up in a perfectly straight line. Okay. We did all that work just so that this rotate plane IK could work correctly. Okay, so I need to rename that to leg_L_IK handle. And all I really need to do is parent that to this control. Okay, so now if I select my control, the IK leg moves with it. Okay, and I can rotate it around. But you notice that as I move this, let me transition this so we can actually see the mesh follow. As I move that around, I accidentally moved the IK handle itself. Okay, let me back up a few steps. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, I was thinking straight. Okay, so we do that, and we switch this to the IK mode. And now as I move this around, the leg follows, right? But I'm not really controlling the foot very well. So I needed to do that. So let me put everything back to how it was before I moved things. And I need to add another IK handle. And there's multiple ways to do this. In fact, Tana had added another IK, rotate plane IK, from the knee to the ball of the foot, and that seemed to be working okay. I'm going to show you another method that I believe works well. And that's going to be just create a single chain solver. So we go back to my IK menu, IK handle tool, change this to a single chain solver. And this time, I just need to connect the ankle to the ball. Okay. So that created another IK handle. We need to rename this one to ball IK. So ball_L_IK handle. And we're also going to parent this one to the IK control. Okay, so now if I move, I can hide these. I don't need to be able to see them. So I have my control here. Minimize a few things. So now as I move this around, you'll notice that the foot stays planted on my controller. Okay, and that's good. But the foot, if I go too far, the foot will, it still doesn't follow correctly. So what we need to do is we need to create IK all the way out to the tip of the toe here. Okay, so create one more IK. I'm going to zero this out. I can do that because I put